Nor do members of my party have the luxury today of blaming this latest failure on the outgoing Senate majority. No, this one's on us. Americans just last month thought they went to the polls and voted for change to stop this kind of thing. Unread, 1,000-plus page bills written in secret, filled with hidden favors for special interests, while funding the lawlessness of an out-of-control president.
Yes, indeed. Joining us now is Ken Cuccinelli, president of the Senate Conservative Fund and former Attorney General of the state of Virginia. Hello, sir. Good to talk to you again.
Good to talk to you.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, let's skip right to something that has not been talked about a whole lot, but is also in this bill. And it's got a lot of people like you and me upset, and it involves campaign finance.
Right. Well, they snuck one of the riders they were willing to go to bat for was one to give groups like the National Republican Senatorial Committee, which did so many awful things in this election cycle, more donor power compared to groups like mine, the Senate Conservatives Fund. They get more First Amendment free speech rights than we do. And that was already the case. They've made it 10 times worse in this bill. So, you know, Mitch McConnell was willing to fight for more disproportionate money to attack conservatives with, but he wasn't willing to fight the funding for the president's unconstitutional executive amnesty.
You know, Ken, there's really something fundamentally wrong with Mitch McConnell on the night of the election or the morning after, who says, first words out of his mouth, there will not be a government shutdown, which means basically, Mr. President, just ask us and you'll get it. There's also something fundamentally wrong, and I know we're focusing on the Senate, when the House Speaker a year ago blames the government shutdown not on the President of the United States when it's over, but blames it on Ted Cruz for making, quote unquote, making me shut the government down, which is ridiculous on its face and twice as ridiculous for blaming Ted Cruz.
You know, especially when you're the Speaker of the House, the same will apply to Mitch McConnell as Senate Majority Leader. The notion that you're shutting the government down when you pass a bill is, well, foolish. I mean, it's illogical. If you pass a bill that doesn't fund executive amnesty, you have funded government. You know, what else is there to say? If the president vetoes that, it is the president who has shut down government. And if these folks are going to curl up in the fetal position automatically because somebody looks at them mean, you know, we're not going to advance conservative principles. We're not going to limit government. More fundamentally, I think it's in question as to whether some of the Republican leadership even wants to limit the federal government.
Well, that's a darn good point and a darn good question to raise and to ask. And you know, Chuck Schumer the other day was talking about how, oh, I'm afraid that the Tea Party is going to take the Senate to the right. And, you know, they don't even realize how much they suffered a year ago when they shut the government down. And I looked at the set and said, suffered? They had one of the biggest landslides in political history a year later. They didn't suffer one iota. And first of all, they didn't shut the government down. But even if you want to claim they did, as the media blamed it all on them and they blamed it on themselves, they still didn't. They flourished a year later. So I don't understand the mindset of a Boehner and a McConnell unless it cuts to the core, as you just indicated, and we need to question what they really stand for.
You know, of course, the liberal media blames Republicans for every shutdown no matter what. And so last year when I was running for governor, I and my ticket were actually hurt by all that because of just the liberal dumping on Republicans. But they also started Obamacare at the same time. And the reality of liberal policies being applied, or the abandonment of the rule of law as part of our discussion, really has a way of waking people up. If only it would wake people up in the Republican leadership so that they'd actually stick to the Constitution. You know, Heritage Action put up an interesting site where they put the quotes of 20 Republican senators who voted no on the Cruz constitutionality challenge, who had themselves said this is unconstitutional, it's a violation of the rule of law, or a variety of things. So then why on earth did they vote no? Why on earth did they vote no? And another question is, for those who agreed with Ted Cruz that what the president has done is unconstitutional, they voted with him on that and then voted for the bill. So they funded unconstitutional activity by the president. Explain that one to me. I have to admit I'm at a loss as to any rational explanation for that aside from naked partisan politics.
And I'm telling you, Ken, what they're setting themselves up for is the base to be so disenchanted 2 years from now that the Democratic presidential candidate will waltz in, because no matter who our candidate is, and I don't think it could be Ted Cruz, unfortunately, they'll sit home and say, here we go again, and it doesn't matter. Look what happened 2 years ago. Anyway, Ken, great to talk to you. I look forward to talking to you more, sir. Thank you.
Well, see, we're going to win in 2016. But
I
we
hope
can
so.
have that discussion
I got
another
it,
day.
Ken. I got to go, but thank you. Merry Christmas. We'll speak to you
Absolutely.
soon.
Merry Christmas to you
All right,
too.
Jonathan Tubin's next, folks. Don't go away.